All right, everybody. Welcome today to the Plus This Jam session. I'm excited. We actually have a pretty good group of people on today, so I'm super excited about that. We've got some cool stuff we're going to talk about today. If you are watching on the plusthis.com/jam page, on that little YouTube snippet, there should be a little button in the lower, I think it's actually on this side, one of the sides, where you can join the Hangout. And if you do that, it'll allow you to ask questions. And so what I'm going to do is ask anybody who has questions they want to ask to join the Hangout that way. I haven't quite figured out how to do like talking back and forth and actually have you guys sharing. I think it's a little bit different that way. But we are going to be able to broadcast this way and then have our questions come in through the Hangout. So feel free to type your questions into the Hangout and we'll get started and get rolling here in just a sec. So if you are in the Hangout and you do have questions, just remember as we go through this, there's going to be a spot to answer, type in your questions, things you want to have answered. I will say there is a bit of a delay, so err on the side of asking the question too early, and don't worry about just typing it in whenever. I'll be good about only asking the question or answering questions like when those questions need to be answered. So I'm going to flip up on my presentation and we're going to get started here in a second. So let me do that. I guess I could have started with this. I'm not. Let's go this and then this. Okay, here we go. We'll get started chatting today about, I apologize, this is taking way too long. All right, here we go. We're going to go with full screen 1. All right. So welcome everybody again to the jam session today. Today is May the 2nd. We got a great crowd on today. I want you all to know that I only got halfway through my lunch before I started this jam session, so I'm excited for it to be over so I can finish my lunch. And I hope that the rest of you also had lunch already, which is a totally pointless thing to say. Let's talk about what we're going to be doing for today. So first of all, today's jam session is brought to you by foam rollers, and I'll explain in a second why foam rollers are so awesome and awesome enough to be featured as the sponsor. Also, if you ever have questions about anything you want to do in Plus This or anything you want to do in Infusionsoft or just random questions, feel free to tweet them to me. My Twitter handle is Brett James. Right? So let me just introduce myself a little bit. Some of you know me, some of you don't know me, so I want to just do a little intro. In case the image you saw before doesn't seem to match up with anything that you've got here on the slide, I am the guy on the right. I'm not the old guy on the left or the Asian girl in the middle with the peace sign. The Asian girl happens to be my wife, which I guess is a good thing, considering I got my arm around her. But anyway, that's me. I worked at Infusionsoft for a number of years, way back in the early days, and so I've had my fingers in the Plus This pie for a long time. I left Infusionsoft for the first time. Actually, I should say for the last time. I left and came back probably 4 times, which probably says more about me than anything else. But I left in 2007, the end of 2007, beginning of 2000. Actually, I guess it was the middle of 2008. Now that I think about it. And then I worked as an ICC for several years in several different capacities. I worked for a lot of the other ICC companies that were around at that time, and then also I ran Infusionsoft for a couple of organizations, just specifically for those organizations. And then when 6th Division was formed in the beginning of 2012, I was conscripted, if you will, and asked to join that team, which I did with pleasure. This was awesome, setting up that team. Worked with them for a couple of years, and then Plus This came out of 6th Division, and I have sort of come with Plus This to run jam sessions, to do support, different things like that. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. First thing is let's talk about foam rollers. So I picked up cycling recently. By the way, if this is your first jam session you've ever been on with me, you've never been on a 6th Division jam session or anything else, the format of this is going to be a little bit different than you're used to, okay? I am a slightly ADD, so I'm going to be all over the place. I do when I get into my presentation, it will be focused, but for the first part of it, we kind of have to dance around a little bit because I like to and it's fun. And since I'm running it, you guys just have to deal with it. So let's talk about foam rollers. So I picked up cycling recently. Not in cycling like the cycler feature in Plus This, cycling as in like on a bike. And I have to tell you, foam rollers after a long ride it's like heaven. Just loosening up those muscles. So if you cycle or if you run or if you're into any kind of sports where you have to use your legs or your back or anything, foam rollers are amazing. They don't cost that much. I think my wife got the one we have for like $10 on Amazon. Get a foam roller, roll out those muscles and those tendons, and your body will thank you for it. Okay, next item on the agenda. If you are not aware, I speak Russian. I'll spare you the long story for this time. At some point, you'll probably hear it. But I speak Russian, and I actually majored in Russian in college, and I don't get a whole lot of chances to use it. And so I use my jam sessions as an excuse to spread my Russian wisdom and knowledge. So today's Russian word of the day is kniga. That H in there is the sound of an N. So kniga, and that means book. I happened to be looking at my bookshelf where there are a bunch of books when I came up with this, and so that's why we're using that particular word. Kniga, that's how you pronounce it for book. All right, a little bit of housekeeping. You should have all gotten the email reminding you about the jam session today. If you want to continue to get those reminders, there's a form on the plusthis.com/jam page. If you do not fill out that form, you're not going to get the reminder. So that's fine. I don't think it's not necessarily crucial that everybody be on that list, but if you do want to get those reminders, make sure that you are on that list and that you sign up. And then you will be the ones that get the reminders every week. So yeah, I think that's the only housekeeping item we have. So today, what I want to talk about before we jump into questions is, by the way, I guess I haven't actually explained this. The format is I'm going to talk for 10 minutes or so, go through this new feature, talk about some other stuff, and every week I'm just going to I'll start off talking about some things, and then I'll flip to questions. So if you ask a question and I don't answer it right away, just know that I have some other stuff. Like I'm going through my thing. I'm going to flip to questions, and that's part of the thing we go through. So we're going to talk about a new feature that we've added to Plus This, which is proper casing the fields, which essentially is a way for you to take any field in Infusionsoft, and if the casing is weird, it will automatically go in and capitalize the first letter and lowercase the rest of the letters in every word in that field. Now, this may not work very well for text area fields or sentences where you have a lot of text in there, but for names or companies or anything like that, where you have some people that type in all caps or no caps, this is a great way to fix all that. So I'll show you how that works, and then I'll flip to questions. So it looks like we've got quite a few questions, which is exciting. I love it when we get questions. So let's make this happen. All right, so in Plus This, I'm going to, let me make sure I can see myself here. I'm going to jump into my Plus This account. And when I go to Add Feature, this feature that we're talking about today it's in the Implementers Toolkit. So I'm going to go to the Toolkit. And if I scroll down, I think it's towards the bottom. Yeah, it's the fourth from the bottom, Proper Case Fields. Okay, so I hit Add. It's pretty easy on the setup because there's not a whole lot of stuff that we need to configure here. We're just choosing which field we want to actually do the proper case for, and then giving the feature a name. Now, what you can do with this is run this feature after somebody fills out a web form or something like that, or you could actually just create this feature thusly by, let's say we want to do company. We'll say proper case company. Right? And then instead of trying to take this, obviously the first thing you can do is just take this URL here, drop it into your campaigns, and make sure that everybody is getting their proper case set every time. Or what you can do is just go to the updater, which is in this menu up here, which is not very well explained. It's kind of like a little secret weapon back here. What this allows you to do is run particular features on your entire database. So what I can do here is I can just pick this proper case field feature and then just run it either on the entire database or on everybody that has a particular tag. And then once that happens, then plus this will just go run it on everybody. And you could do that once a day, once a week. Right now, you would have to go manually queue that up to run every so often. But instead of, to me, it seems like it makes more sense because it keeps things more consistent, and it's not quite as confusing to have to make sure that you put this in the right places in the sequences. You can just let everybody come in, and then once a week or once a day, you come through and you reset this. That's what that feature is. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but it is our newest feature, and so I wanted to talk about it. All right, I'm going to flip now to some questions here. I'm going to turn off my screen share so you can see my lovely face again, which I know you're all excited about. And let's move over to these questions. And I want to make sure I start with questions, the questions that came in earlier, although I don't know what order these questions came in. So let's see here. Okay, so there's lots of these questions. I don't know if these questions show up for you, if you actually see which questions are being asked, but this is kind of a new thing for me because I haven't used Google Hangouts on air for jam sessions, or I guess for webinars like this very often. So, all right, great. So here's a good question here. And again, if you can see this, hopefully you can. The question is, Kyle Martin's asking, this is a great question. How do we use the cycler? All right, good question. Let me flip open my screen again. Here we are. Let's go back to plus this, and let's talk about the cycler, okay? The cycler works off of two different types of tags, okay? The idea behind the cycler is you want to be able to decide, you want to have a library of content, right? So let's say you have 10 sequences. You want to make sure that somebody gets all those sequences based on what they want to get. What you want to do is you're going to decide, first of all, what does the sequence need to, does the person need to get this sequence? And then the second one is, has the person already gotten this sequence? So what you want to make sure you do is that you send them what they should be seeing and what they have not already seen, if that makes sense, okay? So what we're going to do here is first, for each one of these sequences in Infusionsoft, and I'll actually jump into an Infusionsoft account to show you kind of what this looks like from the Infusionsoft side. The main idea here, really what we built this originally for, was to be able to upsell your different products. Like say you have a library of 10 products, right? And you want to upsell people on all of the other products. Like if they buy product 1, you want to make sure they get upsold on all the other products. What you're going to want to make sure you do is set up the cycler so that you can, let me show you here. Well, I'm going to open this campaign and I'm going to talk for a second and go through that. What you want to do is be able to upsell all of the other products based on what they've already purchased, but not stuff that maybe something that they've already purchased, okay? So what you would have to do in Infusionsoft to make this happen, and I did a jam session not too long ago where I actually showed this. What you would have to do normally is create a campaign that looks something like this. And while I do appreciate the bird-like majesty and beauty of this particular campaign, it's a nightmare, okay? You've got your 3 products. Once someone buys one of the products, then you have to do a check and see, okay, which of the products have they already purchased and which ones have they not purchased, okay? Then you got to do that check again, and then you have to do that check again. And you actually do have to have all 3 sequences around on all 3 ones of these. And then anytime you have to change any of the content, you have to go through to each one of these sequences. And that's just 3 products, okay? So that was probably a little bit unnecessary, but let's go back to the better cycler demo so I can show you how this works. So you get kind of the idea that as people go through, you have to be able to check, okay, what have they already seen and what do they need to get? So you have all these tags that push them through that way. What you're going to do with the cycler is just create your library of content. And this could be upsells for products. This could be like in the question, like a choose your own adventure type thing, like what do you want to hear about? And then it will just queue all those things up to go. What's going to happen is you just create your library of content that looks something like, wait for it, this, okay? So you've got, say we have 3 products, and then we have our 3 upsell pieces here. So what essentially is happening is, and I don't know why this got set to be it should just be tags. But essentially for the upsell product, or for any of your library of content, anything that you want, this is going to start that particular sequence, okay? So you've got a tag that will start a sequence, and then you're going to come up with an arbitrary tag that's going to indicate interest in a particular, that they need to get a particular sequence, okay? So in this instance, with a choose your own adventure based off checkboxes on a web form, you would have a checkbox or a tag for each sequence that would indicate interest in that, and you'd apply that tag when they check the box on the form, right? And then second, you're going to have a tag that starts each one of these sequences, okay? So those are the two tags that you need per piece of content that you're going to be sending to them, okay? Then inside plus this, you're going to go and you're going to select the first interest tag, the one that's getting applied when they check the box, and then you're going to select the start sequence tag for that particular one. So actually what we're going to do here is we're going to say interest product A, and then start sequence A. And then we're going to add a new sequence, and we're going to do interest product B, and then start B. And so you see what happens here is the tag shows whether or not we should even consider this option to send. And then the start sequence tag is what allows us to know in the future when we run this for the second time whether or not that content has already been sent, and therefore if we should move to the next one. So what's going to happen is we're going to, after they opt in on that form, that web form, we have all those checkboxes that are checking off in the interest. Then in each one of these sequences, first of all, the tag kicks it off, and then at the end of the sequence, we have another HTTP post that runs the cycler again. So what happens after you've gone through the first sequence is now it's going to come back and it's going to check, okay, interest tag. Yes, this interest tag is still going to be applied, but the start sequence tag is also already applied, which means it's going to skip this one and move to the next sequence. And then if they happen to check that box, then they'll have the interest tag. If they don't have the interest tag, then again, it's going to skip to the next one, whatever your third one is. But if they do have that interest tag, then it'll start sequence B, and you'll run them through sequence B, and at the end of sequence B, you're going to run this again. And then that will go back through and check all that stuff. And at the end, you're just going to apply a tag. You'll apply a tag at the end once they've gone through all that content, and then presumably you would use that same tag saying they've already gone through the cycler, so just skip everything. We don't want to run it for them again. So you would say apply this tag when they've done everything, when they've actually gone through the whole cycler, and then you would use that same tag to skip everything if that tag is already applied when this thing gets run. And then that's pretty much all you're doing, right? You need to make sure you run the cycler when they first fill out the web form, and then after every sequence, sorry about that. After every sequence that you're putting them through, you want to make sure you run that too. Okay. So let me know if that didn't help. I'm gonna move on to some other questions, but if you have more questions about that, Kyle, feel free to type them in to the Dealio, the box thingy. Okay. Okay. So Amanda, looks like Amanda's got some questions about reporting. If you would like to, Amanda, if you'd like to just type them in, then I'm cool taking those questions now. I have a couple of questions here that I want to ask or to answer. The first is, what does a foam roller look like? All right, bear with me for a second. I'm going to go get one and show you. So, foam roller is pretty much what it sounds like. It's just a big cylindrical piece of foam. These come in all different shapes and sizes. This is the cheap one. It's literally just foam that we bought off Amazon. And it's just foam. Some of them have like rivets in them so that it gets deeper and it like massages your back as well. But this works just fine. So that's what a foam roller is. Okay, next question. Oh, we're getting all kinds of random questions. I love this. Okay, next question we've got. What kind of bike is in the background? This is my Specialized Allay. It's not a very high quality bike. It's like the lowest of the high quality bikes. So it's a Specialized, which is good, and I love it. It's a very nice bike, but it's like the lowest of that particular group. So that's that question. This is actually kind of fun. I don't know why I didn't start doing this a long time ago. Okay, let's get rid of this. Yeah, so Amanda, if you want to ask your reporting questions at any point, then I'll make sure to answer them. Next. Okay, frequently deal with families, not individuals. Is where to use plus this to send the same email to all ex-family members as a campaign. Can the software determine when to send an individual campaign versus sending X of the email of the same email on the fly? Yes. So I want to show you, Guy, this is a great question. There are a couple of different things that I want to make sure that I point out here. I'm just going to show you the feature that we designed for this particular thing, and then you can use it as you will to do that. Okay, so add feature. We're going to go to Implementers Toolkit. And there's a feature down here, apply tag to associated records. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to, well, let me just explain how this feature, oh, maybe I should show my screen. Hang on a sec. I've gotten used to GoToWebinar where it shows both at the same time. And so I just have to get used to the real thing. Okay. So here we go. Again, you go to Feature Library, and then under the Implementers Toolkit, it's the Apply Tag to Associated Records. The way this feature works, just to explain, the way this feature works is you decide a field, a custom field or the company field, that you want to use to determine how the contacts are related to each other. So in this instance, you would just say like surname or like unique identifier for that family, whatever it is. Maybe you have an ID number or something like that. You'll decide which field you want to put that into, but you'll have a field, and then that will be the field that will determine whether or not these people are in the same family. Now the key here is that you need to make sure that everybody that's in that family has this field set the same, and that nobody else in the system that's not in that family has this field set the same as that family. So surname might be hard because there's a lot of Smiths out there and there's a lot of Martins out there, right? So you might come up with some other way of identifying the family. But that's the first thing you do. And then here you're going to create, you'll just have a tag that gets applied to all of the individual people in that particular family. So what you do is, if those instances in your campaign when you need to send the email to all of the members of the family, instead of sending an email, you're going to run this action, which is you'll just run it on whoever, like you'll just have the dad or whatever, or the mom or whoever the head of the household is in the sequence. And then when they get to that point in the sequence, Infusionsoft will shove into plus this will check everybody else in Infusionsoft that has that same field, and then it'll run this tag, it'll apply this tag, which you can then use to send the email to those contacts, right? So you would just set up a simple sequence tag to email, and then that's how you would send those things out. And that would be a good way as well to mitigate the problem of knowing when to send to one person versus sending a bunch of people. Is like when you need to send it just to one person in the system or in the family, you just send it to you're just going to send it to that. You'll just send an email. But if you need to send to the whole family, then you'll just run this feature, and that will take care of that. So, all right, here we go. Next. Okay. Yeah, Amanda, I don't know. Let's say I'm done with answering this question. I think there might be a way for me to make you guys be able to talk, but I haven't figured it out yet. So at some point we'll make it figured out. Okay. Next. Having trouble with attendee tags. Mike, I'm assuming that you're talking about with the GoToWebinar connection, the integration there. If you could give me a little bit more information on that, that would be very good, very helpful. So drop that information in, and I'll come back to this question. All right, next. What's the best way to use plus this to improve on the reporting in Infusionsoft? This is a great question. Okay, let me back out. I'm going to unshow my screen. I want to make sure I want to make sure I'm looking you all in the face, so to speak, when I answer this question. Okay, so the first thing to understand, if any of you were at ICON and saw Brad Martineau's presentation, one of the big things that he harps on, and I absolutely 100% agree with him, and not just because he's my brother, but because he's right. What he harps on and what's true is that or reporting in Infusionsoft, we tend to kind of gripe about reporting in Infusionsoft, but all the data is there. It's just a matter of manipulating it and showing it in the right place. Okay, so using plus this to help improve reporting is really about using plus this to gather the data that's already there and put it in a place where we can use it a little bit easier. Okay, so let's go flip back to my screen here. I'm glad that I got to show forth my seriousness and emotion with that particular thing. Here we go. So there are a couple of things we can do inside plus this to help with the reporting in Infusionsoft. Okay, the first is, and probably the most popular. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to start with the popular one. I'm going to start with the easy one. The easiest way to use plus this to help with reporting is to use what we call the RFM features. There are 3 of them, and they're down here at the very bottom-ish. Well, actually, they're in the middle. Okay, how many times has this person... RFM, by the way, means recency, frequency, and money something. Monetization, something like that. How many times has this person bought? How much does this person spend on average? And how much has this person spent? Okay, what this allows you to do is pull back information from the e-commerce module, if you're using the e-commerce module, and put it onto the contact record. What that allows you to do is create reports from the contact module, which is a little bit easier to manipulate and then put on your dashboard, but it also allows you to use the e-commerce information in your automation. So say, for example, how much did this person spend on average? You want to make sure that anytime you put someone into a sequence that there are 2 levels, right? People who spend more than $100 with you on average and people who spend less. And you want to send different information to the different people, right? That's fine. That's how you use this here. Just dump that information into one of the fields and move forward that way. So that's probably the easiest way to do this. And what I would probably recommend, the nice thing about these features is you can just run them, you know, like once a month or once a week or something, and then you don't need to use them other than once a week. So you can just come in here, not how much time is between 2 events, sorry. How many times has this person bought? And then there's not a whole lot of config here, right? Just where do you want to put that information, and then how do you want to restrict the number of purchases they made, and then whether you want to count each product once and that kind of stuff. And then you will, you can just use the updater again to run that and make it work that way. And then same thing with how much does this person spend on average and how much has this person spent. You just go up to the updater and then run them that way. Now, the other way that you can improve reporting in Infusionsoft by using plus this is with the what's the date feature. Okay? There's 2 more that I want to talk about. What's the date and then how much time is between 2 events. The what's the date feature is primarily used as a way to calculate like free trial end dates or you know, renewal dates or something like that, where you can take today's date and then add a certain number of months or days and then store that back into that same field. What you can also use this to do, though, is just put today's date into a field. Okay? Now, that might seem a little bit weird to you, and that it might not make sense why that's important. But taking today's date and putting it into a field allows you to control, and well, not necessarily control, but allows you to have reporting on when certain actions took place. So if you have a sales process, and at certain points in the sales process you're running particular actions, if you were storing the date that each of those things happened, then on your dashboard, you can create saved searches that use that date. So for example, instead of saying, I want to find everyone who watched video 1, you want to know, okay, who watched video 1 in the last 30 days? Okay. Well, all I have to do now is modify this search to include not only the tag, but that date criteria. So we want to find everybody who has the tag watched video 1, and the date in the watched video 1 date field is within the last 30 days or in the last month or month to date, whatever it is, right? So we go to edit criteria columns, and that allows us to pull back all that information and use it to our advantage, which is really what we like to do, right? Using things to our advantage. So using custom fields to set that up that way. And then another thing we can do, well, let me show you this real quick. So you have your dates here, and you can set up different, you can set up reporting basically however you want this way. Now, the last thing you can do, and this is not an exhaustive list, but I think this will at least get your whistle wetted, if you will. The other thing you can do is to create what's called the how much time is between 2 events feature. What this allows you to do is exactly what it says. It allows you to calculate how much time expires between 2 things happening. And that could be anything. You could decide on 2 dates in a custom field. So say, for example, you're using the feature from before, what's the date, to calculate the date of every step in your sales process. Well, then you just find those fields, and you would say, I want to know how many days expire between the time someone opts in and when they request a consult. And then you want to find the time that expires between when they request a consult and when they buy. And then you want to find the amount of time that expires between opting in and buying. And then you want to use that in your reporting on your dashboard as well, because then you can see averages on, how long it takes people on average to convert in your process, so that you can kind of start plan for how everything works. So those are some of the features that can really help that way. I'm willing to answer any more questions about that if you have them, but we're gonna move on for now. All right, let's go. Let me get rid of these. I don't know if I should be deleting these questions. I have a weird obsession with, if I can open the question and then be done with the question, then I need to be done with all the questions. All right, here we go. So next question from Amanda. And Amanda, I apologize again. I'm seriously gonna try and figure out how to get you guys to be able to talk. But for now, we're just gonna have to do it this way. So question goes as follows. We are currently tracking what's the date feature for tracking stages in our sales pipeline, specifically proposal sent and one proposal sent to lost. Okay. So that actually sounds like you're using the how much time is between two events, probably in conjunction with the what's the date feature. But we need to add dates when the proposal was set, deal was won, deal was lost, because sometimes and I don't know why the rest of the question is suddenly gone. That's really weird. Oh, here we go. The rest of the question is down here. Okay, sometimes our salespeople don't change the contact stage right away as they, everyone keeps asking questions and it throws everything off. Okay, so sometimes our salespeople don't change the contact stage right away as they get busy, so we need to track that from the dates. Does it make sense? Yes. This is going to be an interesting thing to answer because you're dealing with what we all deal with, which is people, right? So whenever a person has to get involved in any of your sales processes, then there's going to be instances where they might run into problems. And so I hope that I'm answering the question right. And again, I apologize that we can't just talk to each other, but what you're going to want to do is either have those dates set manually, meaning on your form, you can just have a place where they can put those dates in themselves. Maybe it's a couple of days later, but they just put the dates in themselves. And then you can run the calculation of the amount of time between two events at any point after that sequence. And the nice thing is you can run that feature without it affecting really anything else. Meaning even if there's no data there to calculate, it'll just put a 0 in that field, which is what it was before. So that's fine. And then as soon as there is actually two dates for them to worry about, then it'll work that way. Okay. So what I would suggest there is just on the form the internal form you're using to update the status, I would just include those date fields, and then hopefully that'll help to move forward that way. So here's the rest of that question. Let me know if that doesn't help. Hopefully it does. Okay. All right, so Mike. Okay, great. Mike's back with a little bit of explanation. Thank you for this, Mike. Very good. So Mike is using Wishlist with Wistia, and he's trying to do video tracking. Okay. My first question for you, basically, is just saying that the video is not working correctly. I'm wondering, are you trying to use Wishlist and using like the merge codes from Wishlist? Like how are you sending people to the videos? You know what, actually, Mike, this is probably more of a support issue, and I'd like to talk with you specifically about this. So if you will send an email to brett@plussys.com, then we can just set up a time to chat about this specific thing, because it looks like there's something that's going on with you specifically, and I don't want to, I can't just talk with you, and I'd rather just talk with you to figure it out. So just send me an email, and I'll send you a link to pick a time on my calendar, and we'll get it figured out. Okay, let's get rid of these. By the way, if anybody else is having, I hate to be so open and honest about this, which sounds weird, but we have been having slight issues of late with some of the video tracking features. So if you're having any issues with your video tracking, please submit a ticket or send me an email. We need all the data we can get to really mitigate the circumstance. We've found that there are, here, I'm gonna look you in the face again when I tell you this. we found that there are a lot of, like with WordPress, there's a lot of like plugin incompatibilities, and there's some things that can cause problems. And so if you are running into those issues, please reach out to me, and let's get those things resolved. I'd much rather just spend 5 minutes with you on the phone than try and guess what's going on. So, okay, next question from Kim. How do you get the information that is in a form to pass to a thank you page and register there so that the contact can have new tags added to it? How do you get the information that is in a form to pass to the thank you page and register there so that the contact can have new tags added to it? I am a little bit confused by that question. I don't really know exactly what you're looking for there. If you, Kim, are you trying, so there's a couple of different situations you could be describing here. Is it that you want to pass the contact fields to a second web form, so then when they click, then we can apply new tags? Or is it that you just want to make sure that the information, you want to display the contact information on the thank you page, or I'm a little bit confused as to what you're looking for. So if you'll provide me with a little bit of feedback, and again, if we need to, like, you can always submit a support ticket and we can chat about it afterwards, that's fine. But see if you can explain that a little bit, and then we'll go from there. Okay, great. So Aaron, I can't remember who asked the question earlier about the family members, but Aaron Santos is providing some great feedback here. He says we use designated email addresses to identify all family members due to uniqueness. So just basically, they make up a unique email address for a particular family, which works out great, or something like that. Okay. Let's see. All right, so let's get rid of some of these. We got one more question here. How long? What I'm thinking you're asking here, Jason, is how long have we been split, 6 Division and plus this? And the answer is we've been split for about 2 months officially. Well, in practice, we've been split for a couple of months. Officially, totally split since the end of Icon. There's still quite a bit of crossover, as you can tell. I have my 6 Division hat on. I still wear my 6 Division hat, no pun intended, or maybe the pun was intended. I'm not quite sure. I do a lot of stuff for them still, but officially we are 2 separate companies. Payroll is separate, everything is separate, and we're rocking it through. The idea there was we wanted to be able to give you guys, the customers of Plus This, a better product. And we figured the best way to do that was to dedicate resources to it. And so that's what we've done to split things out. I really enjoy it. I love working with Plus This customers. You guys are awesome. And so that's basically how that goes. So, okay. Well, it looks like we've run through the gambit of the questions, which is good. I'm glad that everybody happened to get on today. Next week, I'm going to try and figure out, actually between now and next week, I'm going to try and figure out how to to be able to turn on audio so that we can just chat about questions, because that tends to speed the whole question answering process up a bit. But thanks for bearing with me today. This jam session, the recording, is going to be hosted on the help.plusthis.com site under the jam sessions section. And I'm going to include some information about what we talked about on the jam session so that you'll be able to search for it later. But again, next week, same time, same place, just come back to plusthis.com/jam, and we will get rolling then. So thanks everybody for coming, and we will see you next week.